Welcome to the Future Fit Edge podcast, your launchpad into a smart future. In this era of exponential disruption, the choice is crystal clear. Reinvent or be left behind, whether you are at your peak or facing new challenges. I am Cindy Montgenie, your guide, inviting you behind the scenes of strategic reinvention. As a former tech executive turned future of work explorer and reinvention strategist, I have equipped thousands of leaders worldwide to not just navigate ambiguity, but thrive in it. Each power-packed episode decodes the strategies of top executives who are tackling today's toughest challenges to stay future fit and transform their organizations, communities, or industries for a brighter tomorrow. Tune in for stellar insights, practical frameworks, and cutting-edge mindset shifts that will set you apart. The future is unstoppable. Are you ready to be unstoppable too? Hit subscribe and join me on this exciting journey. So thanks a lot for tuning again to a new episode of the Future Fit Edge podcast. And today I have the honor of welcoming another accomplished guest, Tonya Jackson, who is the Chief People Officer at Lexmark. And Tonya has impacted the tech industry in the last 30 years, not only through her leadership in R&D, supply chain, and HR, but also she's the co-author of 5 US patents within Lexmark, and she had also an impact in other industries outside the tech industry through her roles as a board directors with public, private, and non-profit boards. So welcome, Tonya, and thanks for taking the time in your busy agenda to chat with us about future trends and transformation leadership.
Thank you very much, Cindy. I'm happy to be here, and thanks for the introduction.
You're welcome. So as I was mentioning, you are currently the Chief People Officer at Lexmark. So you are tasked to lead the HR role after 2 decades between R&D and supply chain leadership. So it's kind of big change.
Big change.
What makes you take on this role?
Yeah, thanks. So it's there was an opportunity. I'd say, let me give you a little bit of background. As you said, I've been in the industry for well over 30 years. And in that period of time, worked in research and development and operations, supply chain operations, manufacturing, and sustainability. And my last role before this one, we had a very interesting organization, which included a combination of supply chain and R&D that we call the product delivery team. And it was a large part of the whole organization. And so I was able to work day to day with lots of people within the organization that I was leading as well as connecting to, because supply chain is kind of in the middle of everything. So you get to work with sales, finance, HR, everybody. So there were some tough times during that time, COVID and supply chain crisis, whatever it will be. And during those times is when you really get to connect with people and really try to, kind of lead through the uncertainty, lead through the change and all of that business. And so we did a good job as an organization, keeping people engaged. We like to say, I think everybody says, control what you can control. Yeah. And that sometimes is meaningless to people when they're really struggling. They're like, it's nothing you control, but we really leaned into, don't get hung up on the things that you can't control, just be really good at what, you can. So overall, we had really good engagement in our organization, even though they were the worst of times from a operational delivery performance. We weren't able to do what we wanted to do, but what we could do, people were very engaged and fighting through everything. So when our head of HR decided to retire, she met with me and my CEO, my boss, and they talked about because I had managed such a large part of the organization already, because my first thing was, I don't know anything about HR. And they were like, well, you kind of know people, because you've had the whole that big organization. And, you managed, and I was able to engage with people, and I love developing talent. That's what I think anybody who's in leadership really should love doing. And they said it'd be good to add the business influence into HR. There's nothing wrong with HR. There's nothing wrong with the talent. But sometimes we were disconnected from the HR was connected from the business, right? And you could say the business was disconnected from HR. And so we talked about it, about moving over, recognizing that, I would have a lot to learn. The team would have a lot to learn from me as well. But the whole point was to really connect HR more to the business. And a lot of it is what I've learned is like making sure we're communicating the why, about why we're doing, certain things, make sure we're listening and we're adapting and adjusting. And then also making sure we're that partner, that because I was in the business so much in it, that it's a lot easier, frankly, for me to connect with the people that it's just I'm in a different role, but I still have the same network, right, within the same company. And so we talked about it. And like I said, the head of HR at the time was a good friend of mine. And she, for me, it was important that she felt confident, good, that she was going to leave, hand it over to me. We did some transitioning and those kinds of things, but you always learn more once you actually have the job. But that's kind of how what our thought process was, that we wanted to build on the strength of the HR team that we currently have, and just connect both ends, connect the business more to HR, connect HR more to the business.
This is awesome. So in this process of discovering the world of HR, even if this is the reason why they brought it, you knew people, but you are not like really familiar with the role, was there like anything change or a new add-on on your leadership philosophy on taking on this role and discovering the world of HR?
Yes, good question. So I first of all, I would say the HR team was very welcoming to me. Surprised, but welcoming, because it was like, okay, because I've known them, right, for a while, but not known them as in this capacity. So I think in any role, I've had many different leadership roles in the company, because we, as a developmental core, kind of as part of our leadership development, we like to rotate people in different organizations. The people, you bring yourself with you in an organization, but you bring your own different ideas, and you get exposure to the entire business, which makes you more effective ultimately across the business. So I knew some of them, and I'd been in different organizations before. So I know there's always this, what I call the 6-month period of feeling inadequate, because you have, I'm not exaggerating a little bit. Sometimes you have no idea what people are saying to you, or because there's acronyms, there's whatever there may be. So there's this feeling of, okay, I have some catch up to do. I have a lot of listening to do. I have some learning to do. So from my perspective, it's just the process of moving from one organization to another, whether it's HR or not. HR in particular, I'd say one of the differences, or one of the lessons, one of the things that I learned is there's more similarity than you would think, in terms of, people think about working in the heart of the business and then moving to HR, but there's always complexity. It's just different. I would say in the like in the supply chain world, there's all of the uncertainty about whatever's happening in the world, and there's plans, and there's like processes, there metrics, there measurements, and those kinds of things that you have to do. And I think in HR, there's that same uncertainty, but the difference is there's the human aspect of it, which is unpredictable. It varies wildly from person to person. Yeah. And so there's that balance of both. You want to be efficient, but you have to have the right empathy for a situation. So you still have complexity, but now you're dealing with, okay, it's more about influence. It's more about really understanding where people are coming from. But I would also say there's an opportunity to add data. I mean, it's not all feelings and empathy, right? It's a lot of things, and that's one of the things the team and I have learned together is there is data, whether it's engagement survey, there's all the feedback mechanisms. So it's not just opinions, or it's not just, well, I think people feel one way or the other. That is true. but generally what we've been working on is trying to quantify, like it's not like you're measuring something, you have a scorecard in front of you when you're talking to people, but when you go back and look at the data and you give it back to the business, it's in the language they can understand. There's certainly the human element of it, it has to be, and there's the human variation of it, but there's also, this is why we come to these conclusions, right? And so I think that's, from my perspective, having been in the business, that was something that would resonate with me. And so I think that's something that the data is there. It's there in HR. You just have to dig it out.
Yeah. So having more like a data mindset instead of inside the human part.
Yeah, it is. But there is, you have to recognize it's not all numbers, right? It is, these are humans, and there's this, the human behavior has a lot of variability. It's unpredictable. And that's what makes it fun, because you do have to think everything through. And, I'd say another difference, and I'm going to go back to a thing I saw just this morning, is I think in the business, you make long-term decisions, you set your strategy, and there are long things that happen. You make decisions on where you're going to put a plant, or how you're going to do whatever today, and that happens over, and the results are over a long period of time. However, there's also this today, what have you done for me lately? Like, I got to get this out in the business. And I think one of the cool things and challenges in HR, some of the programs, some of the leadership development things, some of the identification of what people need from a growth and those kind of perspectives, the results are longer term. So this morning I was on LinkedIn, and a gentleman who hasn't worked at Lexmark for 10 years, I think his last date was 2016. Yeah. And he posted, he has his own business now, I believe, and he's doing marketing work. And he was doing a training session, and his first paragraph was, thanks to the change, the change management and leadership training from Lexmark, I was able to use this because we did a course about, managing through uncertain times and all those kinds of things. So that was almost, call it 10 years ago. Right. And so, and he hasn't worked at Lexmark in 10 years. Right. But the impact that HR training had on him, and that experience, it is still in him. So it's a longer term, thing. And it's harder sometimes to feel those quick wins that everybody talks about. But I think as an HR person, you have to realize, I'm investing now. I may see it in the future at this company, and if I don't, that person is still benefiting from the training.
So it was new for you, this transition to HR, but leading change, leading transformation was not something new. And this is one of the reasons why they saw your capacity of handling large scale transformation. And we know that changes and transformation are not easy, again, because of human behavior and the way our brain is wired. And when we look at the stats, most of the transformation initiatives fail within an organization. So in either this current experience of making this big change or other large project that you were able to lead, what are like the most significant and common cultural organization challenges that you face leading a transformational initiatives?
So you mentioned culture, right? And I think we have a very strong, I will give a shout out to Lexmark's culture, which is long before my term in HR, right? And it's culture is not just an HR thing. It's the people drive the culture. HR certainly helps enable that, but that's a long process as well. So I think with any large transformation, when you're trying to change things and working through changes, is accepting the uncertainty, but also listening to what people are actually saying. As a leader, you have to be a couple of things to me. You have to be approachable, because if you're not approachable, people just won't tell you stuff, and it will be, you're kind of leading and nobody's behind you, right? Because you're saying things, but you're not hearing the other side of, like, well, what should I be worried about? So I think understanding that from a transformation perspective, you have to develop some foundational trust and a strong culture before then. That's helpful. I don't know I guess if you don't have it, there's ways, but I think when we do things at Lexmark, we have that element, that baseline of trust and transformation. That doesn't mean that everybody's in agreement with everything all the time. There's a big, we try to focus on the why in the transformation to get at, this is why we're doing it. And during that why formation that's where you hear all of the, yeah, but what about this? Yeah, but what about that? And that's good. I mean, if you are leading something big and nobody challenges you, that just means they're not.
They don't
totally
engage.
aren't. They're totally not bought in, right? That's just,
they don't
yeah.
care. They don't care.
You're totally ineffective.
If you people like resistant to change is normal. It means like your people are alive.
Yes, yeah. If there's no feedback, it's either they don't care or you're just not connected at all. They don't really feel like they can talk to you. So I think but you got to have that baseline trust anyway. And then as a leader, I have to be willing to listen, but also when something is right, I have to say, okay, all right, we're going to do it this way instead of that way. If people are giving you feedback all the time and you don't accept any of it, then it's going to stop, because what's the point? So when there's value, when it's like, oh, I didn't think about that, or there's a better way, or if it's 50-50, don't care, and somebody, it's okay, let's just do it your way. There's got to be some acknowledgement that people have taken the time to say, this is a better way. And as a leader, you got to say, okay, yeah, let's go do it that way. So I think that some foundational trust and openness, and then that whole thing about we talked about authenticity, and I like to say be real. It's a synonym to authenticity for me, but like if you don't know something, like about you, I got to say I don't know, or I haven't figured that out, or we'll get to that, or yeah, that's a real problem, and we'll do that. You can't pretend like you have all the answers, because that's all you're doing. People know you don't have all the answers, and so because when you don't know, people are like, oh, there's something I can help with, right? Okay, this is still undefined. There's opportunity here for me, versus here's your plan and just execute it. Nobody likes doing that. So I think part of the transformation, I like a good challenge. I think most people do. And so if the challenge is like, okay, this makes sense to go do, and there's a path forward, and I like to tell people that it doesn't mean things won't change, and we are realistic about challenges, but we have to believe in a transformation is worth doing, and that we will figure out a way, and the outcome will be beneficial for our customers. And in the process, we're going to learn a whole lot, even during the bad times. And I would say, especially during the challenges, there's going to be growth and learning there.
Yeah. So I love also the part like of getting the buy-in initially, like the why, but throughout the process of not losing this engagement and showing that you are listening and also taking them into account. I think like indeed this is crucial to ensure like people are staying throughout the journey of transformation. And one of the big transformation at this moment that every company is going through is AI. Because we are in an AI-driven world. And right. The other day I was reading some articles like, this is crazy, the talent war to get really AI talent within organization. Like the salaries are really, really high. So in such competitive market for AI talent, how are you building Lexmark's capabilities to be strong in AI? Because you need it.
Yeah, I figure we get to AI, it's the hot topic, right? And here I would tell you that there's been a strong alliance. This is where it goes to that strategic partnerships for HR, right? Our CITO, Chief Information Technology Officer, was able to partner with a university in the U.S., North Carolina State University, to do a certification program for AI, right? And so I think when maybe we had 2 people at one point that had any kind of AI training. And so what we wanted to do was shift, upskill, reskill, whatever it will be, employees that had the interest. And it's not just about technology. We have an HR person that's certified in AI from a data perspective. But we we partnered with North Carolina State, and I'll give all the credit to him for driving all of this. But we worked together to put we call them cohorts together. So you would nominate from your function people that were interested in doing this, and it's intense, right? It's an intense, so it's a commitment from people's time, because you still have to do your job, and and then you have to do this extra work. But people were really, to your point, like everybody wants that skill to understand what it's about, how I can use it to do my job, how I can use it to improve, myself. And so we put cohorts together, and that was a great decision, because they helped each other through it. They worked on projects together. And so since we started that 5 years ago, we have like 100 people now that are AI trained and have this AI certification, that were Lexmarkers to begin with. They weren't AI. They didn't join us that way, because you're right, it's hard to get that talent outside. And as you see things moving toward AI, employees recognize, I can move with that. I don't have to leave my company to do it. Or they make it, if you don't offer this kind of training, they will leave your company to go get it. So what we do, we've gone through that process. And then last year, I think it was, he and I, our teams worked together to train the entire organization. We partnered with our learning and development partner, Skillsoft, who it is, to develop what we call a learning journey. So it was open to all employees, managers, all employees, because it's not unique to just the people that want to use it at the highest technical level. Everybody should understand the fundamentals, because it's going to make them more effective in their roles, right? And so we had an incredible participation rate. It was not mandatory. It was, this is really good for you. And it was well over 90% in terms of participation, like people took the training. And so what it did after that was, then it did AI, the training did AI, used AI to say, what else might you be interested in? So it's like a foundational course. And then based on where you are in the business, what you're interested in, there could be additional training. So what we're trying to do is, get away from, and it's going to take time from job, like this is the job you're doing, but these are the skills you need. And I think that's what everybody is trying to do. And they're still going to be hiring based on jobs, but you look underneath it it's not what job you had last, it's like what skills you have, because people are in jobs because that's the box that they're put in, but people have an abundance of skills. And so we're trying to understand what are the skills that people have, and how can we use people more effectively based on their skills and interests.
This is awesome. Yes, this is like the trend, and to be able to get more access to more talent, because before being boxed in a role and in the industry, I think a lot of companies are missing on great talent outside. And
so I did talk about, let me give you, I should say the names. Vishal Gupta is our CITO, and he's worked with the HR team as a real partnership. So just want to make sure I gave him credit there.
This is important. And going back to this word of transformation, there is also in many organizations change fatigue, because we have AI integration. We have so many things going on, and change is not easy in itself. So could you share, either in your current role or in a past experience, a pivotal moment when you were leading a transformational initiative and you could see you are making the impact, and it was not another PowerPoint where people were motivated, and at the end there is nothing happened, which happened a lot in many organizations.
Okay, I'm gonna talk specifically about the HR team on this one, it may, since I'm newer to HR, maybe it's new just to me. But one of the things that was different for me is the amount, and the HR organization really wants to service the business and support the business, which is what the HR team is doing. It's a part of it's a business enabling group. What was interesting to me was employee development within HR. So not just worrying about developing the business, developing ourselves, meaning rotational assignments, cross-training, different, you have I think it's, people want to be experts in a certain part of the business, part of HR, which is fine, but the growth really happens when you're doing something different, right? And the curiosity is there. So one of the things that was, which was new to me when I came, was I was like, man, we don't have a lot of cross training. We don't have a lot of, cross functional teams, those kinds of things. There's some silos here, and when you're in it, you don't see it. And it worked. I'm not saying it didn't work. It worked fine, but it was just, for me, coming from the business, there's just so much more of that back and forth. And so we did a reorganization, and it mixed some people up, and people were very uncomfortable as they, that's what happened. And I told them I'm uncomfortable. I'm new to HR, so I want everybody else to be just a little uncomfortable as well. And there was no resistance. It was just different, right? And one of the things when I knew it was working is people were questioning processes, or they were questioning, why do we do it this way or that way? Not in a negative way, but it's just like, oh, this was new to me. And when I knew it was working was when someone came to me who was, let's say, they were not excited, not resistant, but like, all right, we'll see. And what she said was, this has been incredible. I've learned so much. I've grown so much. And she said, I know I gave you a little grief, but it was good. It was good for me. So I think for me, when there's someone who wasn't all like just neutral, but really internalized it and said, okay, I'm going to go with it. I'm going to try it. And to her credit, it was very, it was a funny conversation about, I know I was in a different place, but this has been a really good change. And so what you get is you get more curious. We have more curiosity in the organization now, more, I'd say, chatter across the disciplines, even within the HR team. Because from my perspective, what my communication was, the business sees us as HR. They don't see us as comp and ben, as talent management, as HRBP. They don't. When I'm in the business, I'm like, go talk to HR. And so we can self-identify all we want, but the business is looking for someone who can navigate across the who can help them, get across the organization, not say, well, I do this, but you got to go over here. You want to be one-stop shopping. You want to be one team. And so we have to lose our identity. We don't lose the knowledge, we don't lose the expertise, but we lose our identity, and we identify as one organization. So that has been fun to watch, and it's been fun to continue to grow and develop in that way.
Yes, this is like a real tangible impact. And how, to your point of this evolution of HR being like more cross-functional, because at the end, this is one HR for the business. There is so many new trends now in the workforce on the need like to upskill, and not only to AI, but to be more agile, more innovative, because of the speed of change. How do you see the evolution of the role of HR within an organization to be able to support both the whole workforce transformation that we need to go through and the AI integration? How do you see this evolution?
Yeah, I think, where we've, kind of been talking about, and I think you can do it a few different ways. For me, I'm the business coming in into HR, but I think in general, the trend that where everybody's going is to make sure that HR is a clear strategic partner with the business. What does that mean? That sounds good, but it's that there's some basic functions that have to happen to run the business that HR will always do, but it's not just a transactional, kind of organization. It is actually, I think the trend is going to be HR more partnering, listening to what the organization needs. And I'm not saying that doesn't happen now, but with even more intent and intention, coming back and making sure that, like, HR doesn't have its own strategy necessarily. HR can have strategic initiatives to enable the business, but get away from, this is what HR is doing. HR should be doing nothing that doesn't move the business forward. Now, within HR, I think there should be career development within the HR team. There should be all of this. Let's get cross-trained. Let's make sure that we do our own career development for our own organization. But all of the initiatives should be almost developed with the business. Like the business, like it's not like HR gets in a corner and says, this is our strategy. Is this, what do you need? And the business isn't going to be able to get everything they need because of whatever it may be, resources, whatever, but listen, kind of synthesize that and figure out how HR can make the biggest impact. And some of the things, quite honestly, and you have to be humble enough to say the things that I thought were important, the business doesn't think that's important. And that's kind of hard pill to swallow sometimes, right? But it's like, then you get into the why. Why is it the way I've explained it? Maybe they don't understand it, or is it literally there's something that's more important? And then you have to say, okay, this is what the business needs. And then you go back to the business. I heard you. This is where we were going. But in fact, we thought after listening, this is what we want to do. And once you do that, and then this whole thing about buy-in should be over with. If you have listened, you have changed, and then you're like, okay, we're going to go. We don't have these discussions anymore about, well, we got to get the business buy-in. No, we have it up front. And you hold, and then then that's when the partnership comes in, because now you're holding each other accountable.
Yeah, and I love it. And it was part of my question I wanted to ask, but you answer like the need for HR to really be a strategic partner for the organization. So thank you, Tonya, because we went like through a lot on the
all over the place. Sorry about that.
No, but it was awesome. This is of the podcast to get different principles that are working in the real world for transformation, starting like with the trust and the buy-in, be approachable, authenticity, confidence, trends, and transformation for the HR role. But something also that is happening in our AI-driven world in tech, we're losing like the kind of human touch that we cannot afford to lose, because this is what makes us valuable for an organization. Otherwise, they will have only robots and machines. So to end the conversation, I would love to know you a bit more, like personal side of Tonya, beyond like the executive and board member and co-author of finance.
Sure.
So for learning, because you talk a lot about like curiosity and growth, which is needed, are you more like paper book or digital books?
Ooh, paper, but I'm moving toward digital. I mean, I have Kindle, I have all, but I would say I'm about 50-50, but I'm leaning more toward books.
Okay.
I mean, I'm moving more toward digital.
And how about like books or podcast?
Books.
Books.
Books so far. My kids are into podcasts, so I'm headed that way too, but yeah.
Good. And something more, my favorite, like comfort food?
So I'm from North Carolina, and that's important because of what I'm going to say. My favorite comfort food is Eastern North Carolina barbecue, which is vinegar based. It's very, very, very particular. But yes, whenever I go home, that's my first stop is to the barbecue joint to get the Eastern North Carolina barbecue and coleslaw. It's the whole thing.
And if you could have the opportunity to sit down for lunch, coffee, or dinner with a famous person who is alive, who would you pick? Who would you pick?
Well, I don't know if she would think she's famous, but I think she is. It's Coach Dawn Staley at the South Carolina Gamecocks women's basketball team. It's what she has built. I mean, the winning is awesome, but like what she built is just remarkable to me. So yeah, Dawn Staley.
She's famous because I'm not into sports and I know her.
Okay, good. I think she's famous, but yeah,
so she's
good
definitely
deal.
famous for someone who is not into sport that I know her name. And we can tell, and through your career, like you've really been blessed with a great career, having an impact, having a lot of growth and fun. But what would be your fantasy job?
Okay, this is going to be going back to Dawn Staley a little bit. I love sports. And so some kind of a fantasy job for me to be any kind of assistant to the assistant coach. I don't want like any real responsibility as a head coach or anything like that, but I want to be around some kind of sports team, just to be a part of that. Cause I think it's like the ultimate team work for me. It's like that's a big part of leadership, but at the sports level, it's just there's intensity because you want to win, but it's just a little bit more. Seems like it'd be a lot of fun. But I don't want real responsibility. I want to be assistant to the assistant to the assistant.
Good. And the last one, because you are busy for being like a C-suite executive. What would you do with one additional hour in a day?
Well, I have a grandson, so he's 3 now. I was gonna say a new grandmother. He's 3. I would spend another extra hour with him anytime.
Yeah, because they grew so fast.
They grow so fast, for sure.
Thanks a lot, Tonya, for giving us the opportunity to know you as a C-suite executive and also to know a bit more of your personal aspects. So it was like a great time, and I hope like our audience took a lot of nuggets. I took a lot of nuggets to handle and effective transformation, and also to be able like to ride the waves of the future. So thank you very much, Tonya.
Thank you very much for having me as a guest. I appreciate it, and I had a good time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for joining us on this episode of the Future Fit Edge podcast. To keep the conversation going, follow me on LinkedIn and subscribe to my newsletter. If you enjoyed this episode, remember to subscribe, rate, and share on your favorite podcast platform. See you next time.